All right, so we're back again with the Events in podcast. This series is called Events in War. This is Jake Maggart. I'm your host, Vince Scacco. We're just going to talk about stuff we experienced, military, Marine Corps, in the barracks, in country, all that kind of stuff. So, Jake, how about you kind of tell them where you're from, why you joined, all that kind of stuff.
All right. Jake Maggart, I'm originally from Urbandale, Iowa. Let's see. I joined because I was kind of a shithead, entitled little prick when I was younger. I went to college straight out of high school. Never really had to be responsible for myself. So once I had to get to that point, I got into a little bit of trouble and just pretty much pissed away my first year of college, drinking and having fun. And but luckily had a good enough base from my parents to realize that I needed to make a decision and do something different that was gonna really affect my life and make me work for a change. So studied the military for a couple weeks, ended up deciding on the Marines, and from there, I mean, I had no other plan or no other. I never wanted to do anything else other than do infantry. So made sure I went infantry, and probably the best decision I ever made.
Now, if I remember right, you used to fill out something called BIR, BTR. And in there, you put that you joined the Marine Corps so you could slay the dragon. Isn't that what you wrote? So you could climb the mountain, and slay the dragon at the top.
Well,
Like
yeah, I mean, I've pretty much been a smartass my entire life, so
yeah.
why take that seriously?
That's pretty funny. So, a little backstory. You and I were roommates at one point.
Yeah.
Archuka, remember that guy?
Yeah, I remember he pissed in our fridge one night because he was so drunk.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty typical bear story. I remember
Yeah.
remember that one time Wyatt was walking by and he was like, "Hey Wyatt," and Sarantani was like, "Did you just call him Wyatt?" Ran the room,
Dude,
chewed him out.
that caught me so off guard. I didn't hear the entire thing. Like I didn't hear him yell, "Hey Wyatt." So all I really like, I heard a noise, and then all of a sudden Ian was in the room and had Marchuka by the throat, lifting against the bunk beds. And my first reaction was like, holy shit, he's gonna kill him. So me being a fucking dumbass decide, hey, I'm gonna go grab Sergeant Tawny and try and get in between this and break it up. Well, of course, he wasn't having any of that, and I got the death stare from him. And then it was either Cruz, or I think it was Cruz, that came in after Ian and freaking grabbed me and threw me up against the locker. And I don't even remember what he said. I just watched Ian because I was for sure he was about to just kill Marchuka.
Oh man. Yeah, and a funny thing is, I was actually talking about this the other day. Gallegos, he was our team leader, and
Mm-hmm.
we kind of played it to our advantage, where like Scacco was with Maggart, so he couldn't have done anything wrong, kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know why I kind of got the. I mean, not that I ever really did anything to get in trouble, but got a reputation for being a good influence on you, I guess. Which we know is a bunch of bullshit, but
You're the one buying me 12 packs of Coors Light after work every day.
well, hey, someone had to be the elder statesman.
Yeah, man, that's how it goes. I remember freaking Link would always, anytime he would stay at the barracks, he would like try to steal our beer, motherfucker.
Link was a cheap ass. but none of us were 23, 24 years old with 2 kids and a wife at that time. So I probably would have been a cheap ass too.
Yeah, man. I was what? I was 20.
Yeah, I turned 21 in SOI and 22 on deployment.
Yeah, I turned 21 out there. Man. Yeah, we had some pretty interesting change in leadership, right? Went to Bridgeport. We had at the time it was Sergeant Wyatt as our squad leader. Something happened there. Um, and then we were just sitting in a mountain town with no squad leader. One day a freaking Toyota Tacoma rolls up and Tawny gets out of it. And he just starts barking orders right away. Like, who the fuck is this guy? You know what I mean? Some random ass
Oh, yeah.
dude took, you know what? That guy took over the squad just like that. And I mean, there was a lot of animosity between us, like, Leisure and you and me and Gallegos and like, because Wyatt was like a great leader, just a different kind, different type of leadership.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It took us about what, maybe a month to really kind of, I wouldn't say accept, but just get used to the way he did everything. You know what I mean? Used to
Yeah.
the way
I
he would
mean,
wake us up and run us to the top of the helo pad and have us spar up there. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, Wyatt was super chill. Great leader. You respected him, but he was on chill mode. Um, so yeah, going from him to Ian was pretty different. And I remember that mountain town when he showed up, and yeah, it was immediately like basically my way or the highway.
Yeah.
And all of us we were nervous about who we were going to get in the first place. And I remember both Gallegos and Leisure taking all of us aside and being like, listen, this dude's not going to come in here and mess this shit up. Like, we've got an awesome squad. We get our shit done and we've got a great thing going. We're not going to let this dude come in here and turn this into some bullshit. So I remember thinking like, oh, sweet, Leisure and Gallegos are going to put this sergeant in his position. Fuck no, dude. I remember specifically Ian pulling, it was after we got back from Mount Town. He pulled Leisure and Gallegos into his room. They talked for however long. And those two came out and pulled all of us together. And I remember them being just like, hey, this dude's legit. He's not fucking around. He's our new squad leader. What he says goes.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, you guys just laid down. But yeah, I mean, it took, like you said, it took a couple weeks to a month or so to get used to his intensity, I think. But it was pretty clear really quick that he was a legit dude, a very good leader, and honestly, the best Marine I served with.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
as you know, we served with a lot of really good dudes.
Yeah. I mean, he just had that look to him. You know what I mean? Like, come in, giggling, laughing, and then all of a sudden be serious. You know what I mean? All right, check it out. Look, very good at
Yeah,
just taking over the situation.
absolutely. Yeah, he was kind of a different cat in that sense. He had like a baby face, but yet also at the same time had a face of a dude that would murder you in your sleep. So,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. All those guys from 2.5 that we got, man, we're fortunate for them. Giles and Denal, all those. Couldn't ask for a better crew. In all reality.
yeah, we got a lot of good dudes from there. But I mean, when you think about it, usually when a unit's deploying, if you have a bunch of senior dudes from another unit that volunteer to go on a combat deployment, those guys are usually going to be pretty squared away and they know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we definitely lucked out there.
What was really interesting though, like I'd say it was right before 29 Palms, and they started to shift guys around the company for like leadership, right? We had Lieutenant Kelly, and they took at the time Staff Sergeant Parks and brought him to us, made him our platoon sergeant, and then kind of stacked first platoon to be like this powerhouse of with Tawny in the front and all that stuff, and we didn't really realize that's why it was happening. Then once we got in country, once we got to our AO and realized like, oh shit, we were in the green zone. Okay, we're the main effort here. You know what I mean? And it was
Yeah.
kind of done behind the scenes. It just confuses me as to why they didn't just tell us that. You know what I mean? They were shifting all this stuff around, moving all this. We were just like, oh, this is our staff sergeant now. Oh, this is it. This is that. But they were like creating the monster for us to,
Yeah, I think that's just the military mindset. I mean, the need to know basis type deal. And, you and I at that time, we weren't on a need to know basis. It was do what you told. So,
yeah.
I mean, why they're busy enough with a bunch of different stuff. Why take the extra time to explain to us like, hey, this is why we gave you Staff Sergeant Parks. This is why you guys have Ian and Roberts and all these guys. I mean, it wasn't necessary in their eyes, I'm sure. And that's how it is to this day. I mean, I still work in a paramilitary organization structured organization. It's not military affiliated, but it's the same way. I mean, you don't really, especially as a younger guy, you don't understand or see the bigger picture until you've been around a little bit longer, and no one's really explaining that to you along the way.
Right. Yeah, and those are the kind of things you realize later on down the road. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially whether or not you stay in or get out. Especially if you get out, you have more time to reminisce on what happened in the military. Rather than if you stayed in, you just kind of keep going with the machine. You know what I mean? A lot of guys, they get out and then they start to realize like, oh, this is why that happened. Kind of like, I didn't really start applying that kind of thought until a few years ago, personally.
Yeah, exactly. I think
kinda,
that comes with maturity. And like you said, when you get out, you start reflecting on it a little bit more. And, while we're in, everybody bitches about what's going on and basically the shitty parts of your life. But when you get out, you tend to focus more on the good things that you remember. And then you can reflect on that stuff with a more mature mind and be like, oh, okay, well, now I want to go back in because it wasn't so bad.
yeah. Yeah. You ever thought about that? What it'd be like to go back in with your experience and just knowing how everything works and being more
Absolutely, man.
mature,
Yeah, I mean, I several years ago was, when Cindy and I were still down in Denver, I was trying to figure out my path, what I wanted to do, and looked into getting back in, and didn't end up going that route. But then when we moved here to Rapid, there's a guard unit here. So I looked into the National Guard just to be back in and doing something. But it was hard for me to get back in and do anything other than infantry. I couldn't see myself being a mechanic or being some sort of air wing. Like, it was infantry or nothing for me.
Yeah. It'd be hard to get out and go back in and have, with all due respect, some supply clerk up your ass telling you to get shit done, and you know what I mean. And you
Yeah,
get all
exactly.
the O3s coming in to get their main packs, and just looking at them like, damn, man, I wish I could do that.
Exactly. Well, and also being a little bit older, I mean, sure, with our experience, if you get into the Army or the Navy or the Air Force, there's a chance you get an immediate promotion based off of your previous experience. But even then, you're 30, 31, 32 years old and taking orders from a sergeant or staff sergeant who's 25, 26, 27, which I don't really have a problem with necessarily, but it's different when it's the military structure and and organization.
Yeah.
I mean,
So do you think it's better to join straight out of high school, or to have some life experience and then join the military?
um, I don't know. I think everyone's different. I think it's what you're to get out of the military, or what you're looking to add into your life. Because, you look at someone like me, even though I did do a year after high school before I joined, I needed that structure. I needed that kick in the ass, like a lot of 18, 19, 20 year olds do. But you look at someone like Broski, who was, I think he was 28 or so when he joined. Um, Maybe he didn't need that initially. He's kind of a, you know, Midwestern hard work, missing something. And at 28 years old, he different than you or I did.
Right.
So I think it's different for everyone.
Yeah. Do I remember Grosky at 3 a.m. banging on people's doors? You guys want to play some Madden? You want to play some Madden?
Dude, that motherfucker. So after he got his foot blown off and we got back from our deployment, I remember several times going over to his place and to Parker's place. Actually, I think it was always Parker's place. And, those guys were recovering, but at that point they were doing pretty good. And we just get bombed, absolutely shit canned. And I remember one night out of nowhere, I'm sitting on a stool, we're all just talking. He comes up and Superman punches me right in the dick. Like it everyone that was there was just totally blown away by it. Like, dude, what the fuck? Like, there's like nut tapping, and then that was
Yeah.
across the line, and I think he immediately felt kind of bad about it. So I mean, it took me a good 10 minutes to compose myself, and when I finally got it back together, he apologized. He's like, dude, I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry. I played it off. I was like, we're good, bro. Hug it out. Like 5 minutes later, he comes and apologizes again. I'm like, dude, we're good. Seriously. Come on. I was like, let's hug it out. So I give him a hug and just knee him straight in the balls. And I think he lifted up off the ground. And same thing, laid down for 10 minutes, had to compose himself.
Yeah.
Wasn't pissed at me at all. He deserved it.
Because speaking of like Grosky and Parker and all that stuff, I mean, you and I have been pretty close to some IED blasts. You know what I mean? Fairly in range. And
Pretty close to IEDs, he said.
yeah. And we're
Yeah.
unscathed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're like some people say everything happens for a reason. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't believe that because of combat, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super religious, so I don't really subscribe to the God has a plan for everyone type thing.
Yeah.
I think life is what it is. Things happen because that's life, and there's billions of us here, and your circumstances or the events that happen, they take place because there's so many different ways things can shake down. Um, for me personally, as far as you said, being close to IEDs and whatnot, when Ian got hit, that was a perfect example and something that I thought about for a long time. On that patrol, I was third man in our patrol, and for the entire thing, And I remember, we stopped at that little compound or whatever it was that was pretty close to our PB, and we talked with a couple editors or local guys trying to get some info from them. We were there for, I don't know, what, 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we pushed out basically to go back to Almas. And we went through that cornfield, and at the edge of it, we stopped. Ian stopped us to take a tactical pause, I think, just to let Almas know that we were going to be coming out of the cornfield and crossing that creek line. And so when we picked up to go, for whatever reason, I still to this day, I don't know his reasoning for it, but he told me, like, hey, hold up, I'm going to jump you. And so that's what he did. He jumped in front of me. So now he was third and I was fourth. And that's when, when they were crossing the creek, that he stepped on the IED that killed him. And it's one of those things that I've thought about a lot. Why was it that he decided to do that? And that's that he died and I lived. But it's not, for me, it's never been one of those things that's like divine intervention. Unfortunately, I was lucky and it turned out the way it did.
Yeah, he came from about, I was right behind you. And he came from 3 or 4 guys behind me. The last thing he said to me was, "Hey, Skacko, let me get in front of you." You know what I mean? And walk past me, walk past you. And I just remember how much you couldn't, nobody could see anything. It was just black.
Yeah.
And it just happened so fast. It was like, I don't know, it was silence, and then it was boom. I can hear the sound clearly in my mind still this day, and the sound of the mud raining from the sky as it came back down, and everything clearing back up. Guy goes laying over there in the water.
Yeah, I remember that initial boom, and it was like, for me, it was real. That was the first IED that you and I were super close to, I think.
Yeah.
And that the boom was just like, I don't know, I was so present during that. And then everything was browned or blacked out from the dust and mud. And the next thing I remember is being turned around and looking at you. And I couldn't hear a thing. My lips felt like they were ripped off. I didn't know really what exactly had happened. But then I turned around and saw Ian and went to him. And you mentioned Gallegos. For me, it felt like probably 10 minutes after I got to Ian and started working on him before I even realized that Gallegos was laying in the creek with his arm blown off.
Yeah.
But in all actuality, it was probably at most a minute or two. But yeah, I was so honed in and focused on Ian that I didn't even realize that just to my right, Gallegos was still in the creek and he was messed up. And then, I don't even remember the engineer's name. He was on the other side of the creek and he was just laying down, kind of rolling around because he had a really bad concussion.
Well, Gallegos, he kind of just looked like he was relaxing. You know what I mean? He literally just sitting there. He looked fine. He was just kind of like sitting in the water. You know what I mean? And then the sniper corpsman, Lance, right? Down, doesn't right? He just come running up, jump in there and full Gallegos up.
Yeah, I remember when I finally saw Gallegos, I just yelled at him, "Gallegos, are you good?" And it was like he was super tired, which is, that makes sense, but he kind of just looked at me with that look and was like, "Dude, it hurts so bad." And at that point, I still didn't even see his arm. I was just, because it was still attached, just barely.
Yeah.
And he just said, dude, it hurts so bad. And he kind of rolled over. And then that's when I saw basically the whole backside of his arm was basically blown off.
You know, we didn't have I don't know if we didn't have a litter where if Gallegos was holding it, we had to put Tawny on that ladder, that that like green ladder that the Brits left over, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just the thought of it, like, you know, his legs are falling off, holding his femur bone,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, just so it stayed on. You know, that's the kind of stuff that these kids when they play Call of Duty don't realize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I want to go do this, and oh man, you know, to this day, like anytime I work with ground beef, that's what I
Mm-hmm.
think of. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think of his legs holding his bone on the, you know, fucked up.
Yeah.
And
I
then
mean, that's,
everybody was so in shock that it was Tawny and Gallegos. You know, Clark was trying to call in the 9 line. He kept saying Galvez. He kept saying Galvez, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, it's Gallegos. He's like, all right, Galvez. He kept, like, he didn't want to believe that first team, well, second team later, right? Turan was
mm-hmm.
first. Second team leader, Tosh two speaker, and, you know, best quality in our damn company are getting the same control.
Yeah.
And just the way, like, I remember when we went back, we finally got back to Almas. And there had to be hours of silence.
Yeah.
We all sat in our hooch and didn't say anything. You know, we went to whenever we had a dip, everybody just put a dip in, went to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant Kelly woke us up and told us that he had passed away in helo.
Yeah. I remember walking after we loaded Ian onto the helo, well, Ian named Gallegos. And we walked back to Almas, which was only at that point like 100 yards at most.
Yeah.
I remember first squad had pushed out to basically cover us, and I walked past Link, and I could see his mouth moving, but I couldn't hear anything. And I mean, I could see by the way that he looked at me that he was kind of in shock. Because I mean, knowing now, I mean, later that evening or whatever, when I finally got my shit together and cleaned up, I mean, I had frickin' mud everywhere, pieces of flesh in my body armor and in my rifle, and but going up to Link, I still remember that his mouth was moving and I couldn't hear a thing, and he had to scream in my ear, basically just telling me what direction to go. And then, you know, we got into the gates of Almas. I remember you and I were right there, and Lieutenant Kelly comes running up, and it's like he wanted to say something to us, but he had a job to do. And I think the only reason he stopped for a second was he could see that, I mean, both of us were basically in shock still, or at least I know I was. And it's like he stopped, asked us if we were good, and we said yeah, and he pushed on. And I just remember I turned around and put my head in your chest and just started crying. And then yeah, I think Leisure, I can't remember if I went out or Leisure went out, but you remember the where our room in Almas, and that there was that post above it, and there was like that there was basically like that, if you went around where our room was, you could go to the outside of Almas, but it was still relatively covered, and I think the generator was back there or something.
Yeah. It's a generator.
Yeah. I think I went out just to like get away from everything and found Leisure out there. And yeah, and then Leisure and I sat out there outside of the patrol base and just sat there and freaking didn't say much, but were there for each other for 30 minutes or whatever before we had to figure out we had to go back in. Yeah, it was not much was said after that.
Yeah, it just shifted the entire mentality of everything. You know what I mean? Like the difference of like just waking up is different. You know what I mean? Like Tony was a guy who would fill sandbags next to post, or just like everybody else. You know what I mean? As a sergeant, he was that kind of guy. And it was, I don't know, the squad was just different after that.
Yeah, it was a lot different. I mean, Turan, to his credit, is a great dude, but I don't think Turan ever really had it in his plans in his military career to be a leader. And I mean, he wasn't the same leader as Ian, which it's not fair necessarily to say he didn't live up to Ian, because honestly, there's very few people in the military that could. He was that good. But yeah, just the whole, our entire squad was totally different after that. To lose Ian and Gallegos at the same time, and then shortly after to lose Leisure, I mean, those were our leaders.
Yeah. I remember when Leisure got shot. I don't remember like who I was with, but it was they was doing that clearing out we were on.
Mm-hmm.
I was like attached to. It was like 5 of us just running around doing something, and remember we had no idea who got hit. We go running over there, and it's Leisure being taken down. And he's like, "Give me a fucking cigarette!" It's just cussing at everybody. Mm-hmm. Your fucking hurts. And he obviously he was in pain, but he was like still being Leisure. Still, you know what I mean? Still being
just angry. He was angry.
Yeah, pissed off. People were kind of laughing at the situation. He was,
I remember, because it was weird. Like, for whatever reason, our squad got split up and attached in different sections with other squads. And I don't remember who all I was with, but we heard it come in. And so we started pushing that way. And I just remember seeing like 6 dudes carrying a tarp and just struggling to carry him. And immediately I knew, I was like, that's Leisure. Immediately I knew it was him, because he's a big motherfucker. And then, we got to him, and he had that stupid ass haircut. You remember that?
Yeah.
Because we had that RT Colonel, whatever the hell his name was, that came and lifed us all out for haircuts and shaving and white socks and all sorts of stupid shit. So Leisure basically said, "Fuck you, dude," and did a screaming high and tight. Yeah, so the last thing I said to him before he got on the helicopter was, "Dude, you realize you're gonna have the dumbest fucking haircut in the entire hospital."
That's true, but it was funny, man. He pulled it off well.
Yeah, and you remember Doc? God, who's the one? The fat incompetent doc we had. I don't even remember his name.
McPhee?
Yeah, McPhee. He threw a tourniquet on Leisure's leg and cinched his nuts up inside the tourniquet.
Remember when he fell through the roof?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that dude was just a walking shitstorm. He couldn't do anything, right?
He was stressed the fuck out, though. You know what I mean? Constantly just, he didn't want to be out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, he didn't want to be there. He straight up said that in 29 Palms, that my rifle's for my own protection, not for killing anyone or whatever. Whatever, dude.
Remember the good old Fabio and Mikey G show?
Oh yeah, I figured that. Yep, that's the stupid shit we do to pass the times on post.
Yeah.
That took off though, that like went from being just me and it and being bored to legitimately we got everyone in the platoon involved. I mean, that was
People were calling in, doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were taking callers. So a little background story, I guess, so people know what's going on. We had Mike Gordon come to our squad as basically a fill-in once we started losing guys. And Mike had been in 3rd platoon prior to that.
Yeah.
So Mike comes to our squad, and him and I end up standing post together primarily at nights. And after a while, you learn everything about someone while you're standing on post. So we got bored and decided to hop on the radio and start the Mikey G and Fabio show, which was Mike and myself acting as our Portuguese Bostonite corpsman, whose name was Fabio Lima, and just had the most ridiculous Boston accent and just said the most outlandish shit. So it was Mikey G and Fabio, and their posts, and they would be, well, then we'd get other posts just call in randomly. And then it got to the point where we had our platoon sergeant and our platoon commander calling in, acting as random people. And it went on for, a couple weeks probably.
Yeah, until it finally got simmered down, Oh, that's enough, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it got to the point where we way too much.
I know. Dude,
it was fun.
Lieutenant Kelly, though, man, if he would have saw some of the shit we did after he had passed, like building that fire pit inside of Almas, oh my god, he'd have flipped the fuck out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's we talked about when we lost Ian how much our squad changed, but really, I mean, if you had to ask me, and it's nothing against Staff Sergeant Parks, he was a great Marine, but leaders in our platoon, to me at least, it was always viewed as Lieutenant Kelly and so to lose both of them, not only did our squad dynamic change, but the entire dynamic of our platoon changed after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, we obviously you're in combat, legitimate combat. You kind of have to come to terms with the fact that you might not make it home, and young guys are going to do it. And yeah, I agree. When Ian and Lieutenant Kelly both passed, we got away with some shit that probably would have never fucking flied.
Oh yeah, when we just parked around the show, yeah, that was pretty. That was some dark times. You know what I mean? That was some. Yeah, but and could we have gotten a better? I want to say replacement, but a better person for the job other than Lieutenant Owen. That guy was fucking awesome, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The way he came in, he introduced himself and was like, "Hey," he tread on the fact that he knew Lieutenant Kelly was. He didn't want to seem like this guy just taking over everything.
Mm-hmm.
Him and a really good dynamic together. You know what I mean? Especially when Lieutenant first got there, he wanted to go on every patrol. You know what I mean? He was just trying to get something. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we could have really, because he, like you said, he came in with the mindset of he knew exactly what he was getting into. Who had taken several hard hits, and there was no way he was ever going to live up to Lieutenant Kelly. So he didn't even try. But at the same time, he wanted to earn our respect. He was a fiery younger dude and it was his first real combat deployment as well. So that's, I think, what led him to, want to earn our respect, and he was never trying to replace anyone, and that's exactly what we needed. Because if we had someone come in that tried to be Lieutenant Kelly or tried to directly replace him, it wouldn't have gone over very
Yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of weird stuff as far as leadership across the company. When
well.
Gunny D and Captain Murray got relieved, like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Man, you guys were fucking awesome, dude. Gunny D's one of my favorite people on the planet. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, that guy, you sit in a fighting hole, hate your fucking life. He talks to you for 3 minutes and you're gonna be enlist. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah,
He'd immediately brighten you up.
yeah.
That, you talk about like reflecting back on stuff and having a better perspective now. That's something to this day I still can't understand, is why they, with everything that was going on, why they took Captain Murray and Gunny D, who were both amazing Marines and amazing leaders, and they took them away from our company. And not just, I mean, in Captain Murray's case, he technically got a promotion. He went to like ops officer or something like that, even though he didn't get a promotion rank wise. So that right there told me and all of us like that, okay, we're going to post this dude, but he doesn't really deserve it. So we're going to put him in a position that's higher than what he was because we know how good he is. And then from there, we got, what was it, Gunny Navarro?
Uh,
Something like that. And
Raphael.
yeah, Raphael and Peterson, who, you know what, circumstances probably made my perspective on them a little bit different than what they actually were, but I wasn't a fan. Um, you know, since then there's been a lot of criticism on Peterson, and I've seen, even on Facebook or social media, he's still been present, and people have backed him, and he's backed himself against criticism, and that's great. It's not to say that he's a terrible dude, but just the way that he came in and some of the things that he did, I didn't agree with. And Raphael, we went from having Gunny D, who was one of the greatest dudes and an amazing leader, and like you said, could take you from being miserable to bringing your spirits up in just a couple minutes, to Raphael, who was basically 24/7, even if it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, you didn't even know us and you just come to the patrol base, shooting everybody out. Get this fucking shit off the wall. Like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
We're here just more if you didn't know. I want a pair of breasts from Nuts magazine hanging on my wall. I should be able to have that.
Yeah. Well, and I'd say one of the things that happened on the deployment that was I guess a sour note or didn't look good on our unit or our company especially, was when that 240 got stolen when they got attacked.
Yeah.
And you remember they were basically operating out of an OP that was a circular berm with a Connex box in the middle, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
But they got attacked multiple times, and during one attack, a 240 was snatched off one of the posts. And yeah, that's a big deal, and it's not good at all. But the behind the scenes shit is they had been requesting C-wire for 3 days. And of course, the day after that shit happens, C-wire shows up. And it's like, okay, you could blame a half a dozen people or more for that, but really when it comes to supply and logistics, that falls on the company Gunny. And that's who they were requesting it from.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Gunny D would have gotten that CY right away.
Exactly. Because he would have been worried that those guys were in a compromised position, which they were.
Yeah. It's like a Call of Duty map they're running out of.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One of those little maps that you get dropped into and you're like, oh great, I'm gonna die 50 times and maybe get like 30 kills. Like this is gonna be fun.
Chaos the whole time. You know, I was
That's
looking at
funny. You mentioned,
what's up?
sorry, I was gonna say you threw out the Call of Duty reference earlier, and that's what kids don't realize. I remember when I first joined, I was sitting at was it MEPS before you fly out to boot camp.
Yeah.
I remember this dip that I sat next to he was all amped up, and at that point I was pretty calm, but still in the back of my head like, oh shit, do you know what you have gotten yourself into? And so a little nervous. And I remember this dipshit just like all jacked up. Fuck, dude, this is gonna be legit. He's like, dude, I really hope I get a noob tube. Like, I hope they issue me a noob tube. That would be amazing. I just looked at him like, you have got to be shitting me. This dude legitimately has played too much Call of Duty, and that's exactly why he joined.
Yeah, I forget whose Cadillac it was. I ran over to you and I was like, hey, let me shoot you a 203. And I just handed you my saw. I overshot that fucking 203. Like, dude, it probably went max fucking range. Shot that shit, boom.
So first, I don't think that was a Kazovac. I think it was third platoon was out patrolling, and they took major contact. We were still in OP25 and basically pushed out to cover them coming back.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. I could be, but either way, yeah, our entire squad is like basically behind a parapet wall for cover, and your dumbass comes sliding over. You don't even just like run over and take a knee next to me. You literally did a power slide and almost took me out. You're like, hey, dude, you want to switch weapons? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about right now? Like, we're in a firefight. You're like, come on, let's switch weapons. You take my. And like, part of me was thinking, like, you're crazy. But the other part was thinking, like, hey, that'd be kind of sweet to let loose on the saw for a bit. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Hand you my 203. I mean, and immediately you pop that thing off. And you say that you shot it at about max range. Like, it felt like you shot it straight in the fucking air. You just held that thing up and boom. I just looked at you like, what are you doing? And I take a second or two to check your saw and see what condition it's in at least. And as soon as I go to mount it and shoot, that's when they call a ceasefire. So you launched off a ridiculous Hail Mary, and I didn't even get to shoot your saw.
But if we ever end up in that situation again, I'll make sure you can shoot the saw.
Thanks. It's something that's been lacking in my life since then.
I remember at LP25, it was like a race to get to the 50 cal. You can get up there and shoot that fucking thing. That's what everybody wanted to do. Just sit right in the middle. Was it Frog?
Yeah.
Yeah, facing over at Frog.
Yeah.
Where Global got shot from? Frog?
Yeah, he was on that post when he got shot. That was, that whole thing with Goebel, like, to this day, absolutely what he did was awesome.
Yeah.
Dude ended up getting. I think it was silver star or bronze star at the very least.
Silver.
Yeah, and basically took contact from this compound. He got shot in the neck, and was able to get himself back up, man his 50, and unleash an entire ammo can full of 50 before he got himself back up and started trying to get off the roof. He was trying to get down the ladder. And, we called in his Kazovac. I remember I was a part of the team that carried him to the helicopter, and we were still taking fire when we took him to the helicopter. And, so legit deal. The dude did some awesome stuff. But he definitely played that up. And one of the things that's really a sour taste in my mouth with, the military and our deployment in general is the amount of guys that really pushed for awards and just the awards process. Because I remember they made Gordon on that probably 7 or 8 times, which to me was ridiculous. But so that's one thing that for me really left a bad taste in my mouth. But then after we got back and after several months and different things happened, and I ended up getting sent to do for General Bailey, and he went to Goebel's so I went with him, obviously, and it's a big ceremony at the end. Basically, the entire company or unit that he's with at that time comes through and shakes his hand, and the last couple people to go through was his CO and then General Bailey, and I was last person. And I remember I went to shake his hand, and I was just said, "Congratulations, Goebel, you definitely deserve this." And the dude didn't even fucking look at me. He just stuck his hand out and was like, "Yeah, thanks." And I remember that fucking pissed me off so bad, because it was like, dude, first off, I know what you did, and I'm not saying it's not worthy of this silver star. Like, you did some awesome stuff, but your citation was rewritten 7 or 8 times until the wording was right, so you could get this silver star.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I was part of the team that called in your Kazovac and then hauled your ass to the helicopter while getting shot at. The least you can do is look me in the eyes and actually acknowledge, hey, we were in this together. And that's just how that dude was, though. He was different. He was a goofy dude, and I don't know for sure. I was never present during any of this, but I've heard people say, he definitely relives the silver star and talks that up whenever anyone's willing to listen.
I mean, he's the guy who got attacked by a mountain lion. Remember that? So I got attacked by a mountain lion back in. He fucking might have. Who knows? You know what I mean? Interesting guy.
Yeah, he was that dude. He always had a story.
He was like a Dos Equis man.
Yeah. Yeah, a Dos Equis man of West Virginia rednecks.
But in Bridgeport, though, that guy could fucking pull a sled with any amount of weight on it.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He was a workhorse for sure.
Like, he didn't know that
he was
in pain.
Yeah, exactly. He was stupid strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, different cat, man.
That's what's cool about the infantry, though. It's like the difference of people all in this mosh pit of, and you're like, okay, these are my friends now. You know what I mean? Like, you're issued your life, you're issued the people you hang out with, you're issued, in many cases, you marry. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you meet them here or there or whatever. And you think about like if I never joined the military, I wouldn't hang out with Tommy Wright and drink Southern Comfort. You know what I mean? But I was in the military, and Wright's my fucking, my buddy, and we're gonna drink some Southern Comfort together. You know what I mean? It's pretty cool how it
Absolutely.
just creates that. I think it like can set you up into being able to, especially in the civilian world, just accept people for who they are, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
kind of hard in the sense of like, accepting leadership from or whatever the case is, but as far as like, oh, this is where that person is. You know what I mean? Whatever. You're so used to it in the barracks life and all that kind of stuff. It's, the crazy
Yeah.
stuff you do and the people you share experiences with.
Well, you don't bond over shared history or shared community necessarily. You bond over shared hardship. And you and I, in our previous lives, would probably never have been friends. I was, middle class, nothing to bitch about when I was younger. And you were hood rat from Milwaukee. But I mean, none of that shit matters when you're sitting in a training op and getting pissed on by rain and having to only getting a couple hours sleep each night. Like that sort of stuff doesn't matter. It's those shared hardships that make you bond. And yeah, I think a lot of people, civilians, might have the idea that racism, military, if that's what you even want to call it, is a big deal, because every once in a while you might hear a story like that. But honestly, at least in the infantry, sure, we're always going to give each other shit, but it's never legitimate like, hey, the white dudes aren't hanging out with the black dudes, or the Mexican dudes aren't hanging out with the black dudes, or whatever. Like, no one ever even thought of that, because the only thing is the things that we share together.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like, just especially in the smoke pit. You know what I mean? Like, I know smoking cigarettes isn't the best thing in the world. When you're in the fucking infantry, especially in the Marines, it's 1400 and everybody's sitting in the smoke pit waiting to fucking get off work. Conversations you have in that box are like, never forget them. You know what I mean? Like fucking Cheney. What's up, guys? What you doing? You know what I mean? It's just sitting down, fucking sparking out. And,
the smoke pit was like garrison post.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn, you have the most ridiculous conversations, and you learn everything about each other. And I remember most mornings for me said, smoking's not good for you, but you know what? I fucking did it when I was in the Marines, and it helped.
Yeah, for sure.
So fuck you if you judge me. But I remember most mornings, you're getting up pretty early and you got chores you got to get done. And most of the time I was half asleep when that happened. And I'm not a morning person, so I'm cranky. So my morning coffee, and what really like started my day, was going and having a cigarette in the smoke pit after getting our chores done. And it's like after that, like, okay, let's start the day. Let's do this. I'm good to go.
And watching Let's Make a Deal. Remember that show?
Yeah.
Have like 6 people in a tiny little barracks room watching Wayne Brady.
Yeah, that and shit. We got down on FIFA and Madden for a while.
Oh, speaking of FIFA, do you still play?
A little bit, yeah. I actually, so personality, and when I moved here, Cindy didn't move up for a while, because I basically lived in a house by myself for a month or so with no furniture other than a mattress and a couch and a TV and my Xbox. And I would get off shift, and for 48 hours I would play FIFA. And it got to the point that I was like, okay, Cindy's about to move up here. I will be divorced if this continues.
Yeah.
So I just said, fuck it, sold my Xbox. I haven't had one for years or so, and I just got one recently. So we'll have to get down on some FIFA again.
Yeah, for sure. You're the newest one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to download that. I have an old one, but I'm like, I'll get on a beat Maggart and people real quick.
Yeah, good luck. Like that worked out for you in the past.
And fucking Vaughn, dude. Vaughn would all like remember Vaughn? On Vaughn. He'd walk up to you and be like, FIFA? Like he would start the conversation with what he wanted the subject of conversation to be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Con
He's
was
good at FIFA though. Damn.
well, and it's like he would start every conversation or every interaction like he was afraid you were gonna hit him. But then he'd give you this like super confident smirk, like, "Hey, all's good, right?" And I mean, you couldn't hate the dude; he was awesome. But you remember Bridgeport with the goat?
Oh yeah, when he cut the head off the goat.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I think I remember Reynolds had to do it for tune, and I don't remember who the other one or two were, but Vong went last, and he was handpicked by our platoon because we thought it would be the funniest. Obviously, we weren't going to pick the person that would do a good job. We picked the person that we thought would be a little squeamish. So we picked Vong, the quiet Asian kid, and I mean that dude's a fucking assassin.
Yeah.
Like he just everybody messed it up. Everybody screwed it up. They told you had to cut a certain way, and it turned into everybody having to hack this goat's head off. And Vaughn comes up and just grabs this thing by the horns and yanks its head back, and just one slice ninja assassinates this goat. And I think he just like dropped the knife and walked off. I think probably everybody in our platoon just had their jaws on the floor.
That was some pretty damn good stew though.
Yeah, that could have been 5-day-old cat, and it would have been good because it was warm.
Yeah. This one was miserable, dude. That's when I first got to your platoon. I didn't go to first platoon until the day we went to Bridgeport. Just got
Was
dropped
it
with you
that?
guys.
Oh shit! I didn't realize it was that right as we were going there.
I was literally walking to the armory. Sergeant Cruz, he ended up getting out, like handed me to Wyatt. That's how it went. And Wyatt was like, "This is your team leader. This is that's Cool Gallegos." So I was like, "Okay." And I'm bam, I was with your platoon. Time then.
I didn't know what to think of you because I was like, I hadn't hung out with you a ton before then, and you know, I knew you had gotten in a little bit of trouble, and a little more urban than me. And I was like, all right, what's this dude all about? Like, this dude acts like he was straight OG and whoever, but he's about 6'4", 170 pounds, soaking wet. And we hit it off. That's the thing about the military or any organization that's built like that is, sure, you can get in a little bit of trouble. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad Marine or a bad whatever. Like, you got in a little bit of trouble, but you did your job. You worked your ass off. You're a fun guy to be around, right? And that's really what matters in that. It's not like, hey, this guy got an NJP or this guy got in some trouble because of the rules.
In my defense, all I was doing was carrying out orders for my seniors. They said, you know fucking Sims? I'm like, yes, Lance Corporal. Like, get rid of him. So I beat the fuck out of him until he went away.
Yeah. You did your job. It was just, was it White or Reynolds that decided they were going to videotape it?
It was white.
Yeah, that's what fucked you.
But we got rid of Sims.
Yeah. Yeah. It all worked out. I mean, you ended up better off.
Yeah, dude. First platoon was happy that all happened that way.
Yeah, we had a pretty good thing going. Yeah, I
Dude,
remember Bridgeport, obviously, with as cold as it was at night, sleeping in those tents, you got pretty close to your teammates, snuggling up, getting nut to butt, trying to stay warm. But, snow would fall off the trees on top of your tent, and it would literally like suck the air out of the tent. You couldn't breathe. So the guys on watch or on post to go around the snow off of the tents. But some guys would either forget to do that, or it would just enough snow would fall quick enough that they hadn't gotten around you yet. And I remember waking up one night to you sat straight up, like clutching your chest, freaking the fuck out because you could not breathe. You couldn't breathe. I remember the exact feeling. You legitimately didn't have oxygen to breathe. But I just remember your eyes about this freaking big because you couldn't get any air.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Crazy world, man.
Yep.
Take you into
The best times and the worst times, right?
all at the same time, yeah.
Yeah.
Best, worst times of your life.
Absolutely. But I wouldn't trade him for anything. I mean,
Yeah, it definitely molds you. Well, it's either you live what gain you gain from it or you don't. Some guys are just fucked up hole that they can't get out of even still. Some guys are like using that experience to just make them stronger.
mm-hmm.
And it's a weird. I don't know. It's hard to explain to people how to how to get your mind out of that rut.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it took a while, I think, to get back to a normal state of mind as far as, like we talked about earlier, you have to come to terms with you might not make it. So that means you have to be okay with dying. And then to come home and learn how to live again, it's tough. And you talked about Ian, and um, since then you're like, that always brings you back to Ian when you're dealing with like ground meat and shit. That's something that ate at me for a long time. And I mean, you remember Ian's 5-year anniversary where I got absolutely shit canned and basically lost my shit and got super emotional. And that was basically that, just boiling up over that many years since that happened and not actually dealing with it. And what really helped me was talking with his dad. And I was honest with him. I said, I feel responsible and I feel like I didn't do my job and I messed up because for whatever reason, with his crazy, one thing that always stuck out in my mind was when I, lifted one of his legs to throw a tourniquet on. I basically grabbed his thigh and could feel like uh, like meat, like a piece of his flesh that had folded over or whatever. So I was grabbing his thigh and a piece of a muscle or his flesh or whatever. And I threw the tourniquet on, cinched it down, tightened it up, put it on and then he obviously didn't make it. And for whatever reason, something that always stuck in my head was I didn't get the tourniquet on properly because there was a piece of flesh that was stuck in there, which, if you think about it objectively, as long as the tourniquet's tightened down, that shouldn't make a difference.
Yeah.
But to me, the person that was actually doing it, questioned myself for 5-6 years after it happened.
Yeah.
And talking with his dad, at that anniversary, that really helped me out of that. And just talking with you guys about it, and talking with my wife about it, because I hadn't talked to anyone about it. That was the first time I had told anyone that I felt guilty. And then Ian's dad basically talked to me and said, he even pulled out like the records and stuff that they got from the military, and they were like, his wounds were so much more extensive. There's nothing no one or anybody could have done. And that helped me get over it and at least face it. But also talking with you, even though I was completely fucking hammered, just being able to get all that emotion out is what helped me through that. I think that was a big thing after I got out that was really eating at me and holding me back.
Yeah. I really hope this 10-year reunion we have coming up got postponed, But I really hope a lot of guys show up to that, Kind of interesting to see. Kind of like a high school reunion, who got fat, who pulls up in the Benz, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be fun.
Yeah. I can imagine Fabio's probably going to be one of the people that shows up in a 3-piece suit and driving a Beamer or a Benz or something.
Yeah.
He was all about that stuff.
You'd be like, "Oh shit, dog! I'm gonna get a Bentley and fucking go."
Oh, bro, you see this suit?
Yeah.
See my suit? I've been selling real estate, and I've got the Beamer. I told you I like Beamer.
You know what, though? He did everything he wanted to do. He got out, making good money. He's got his blonde wife. He's got kids. He's living in somewhere in Orange County. You know what I mean? Do this thing.
Yep. Yeah, he did good.
You're firefighting now, right?
Yeah. Firefighter out in South Dakota in the Black Hills. Or 2 jobs actually. I do home inspections on the side, and for a while I still actually. I started my own company doing firearms instruction, because when we were down in Denver, I worked at a range and and then did security contracting for a while. So kind of got into like the training aspect of firearms and realized how much I sucked at shooting pistols.
Yeah.
So that kind of turned into a bit of a hobby. But that's just, I started it, did a little bit, and it's not like a company or anything. It's just something that I do from time to time. But yeah, staying busy.
What you gotta do, man.
Yeah. And that's I think every single year this day, I call guys and text guys that we served with and just see how they're doing. And almost every single time, me and them, it's staying busy, just not turning the day into a pity party or anything, but just staying busy and living on life.
It's crazy how easy it is to make a pity party in October, though. You know what I mean? And in November, like those times that time of year, when everyone's like posting stuff about it. Rest in peace, this guy. Rest in peace, that guy. And you got guys who were amputees posting pictures of them getting surgery. It just throws you back into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, fuck.
Hey, hold that thought. Can we pause this for a second? I'm about to piss my pants.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Pause it, but hold back up.
I just restarted it.
Yeah, it's something I always wondered, you know, like doing these podcasts, like Joe Rogan, one of the most popular podcasts out there.
Yeah.
That fucking dude goes on with his people on his podcast for 2 hours or long, and they're drinking.
Yeah.
They gotta take breaks.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that guy, dude, Joe Rogan, definitely. And it sounds weird to say. That podcast has helped me a lot for years. You know what I mean? With
Yeah.
the guests he's had on the show, listening to people talk, perspectives, doctors, philosophers, all kind. You know what I mean? You listen to them, you're like, oh, okay. What the world is. That makes sense. You know what I mean?
Well, that dude has an amazing talent for being able to be moderate, and no matter who he brings on, no matter what his views are, he can have a good conversation with anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, he throws Ben Shapiro on there if you want to get political, but then he has Bernie Sanders on there. And
Yeah.
it's interesting either way, no matter what your viewpoints are, because of Joe Rogan.
He just lets them talk.
Yeah, exactly. It was
Yeah.
a great job. So what were we on before a little break?
Oh, just talking about transitioning into doing light, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Being able to get out of that slump. You know what I mean?
Saying
I was guilty of it. When I got out, I drank a bunch of beer, moved back to Wisconsin, got kind of fat, smoking weed all the time. You know what I mean? That's all I did. Especially when I got laid off with my job in the wintertime. I was like, fuck, I gotta go back to California. Went back to California. And I was still doing the same shit. And I was like, I just, need an outlet. Started training, started working out. And I was like, okay, that's what I needed. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
until, for 2 years, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? No idea. So, it'd be hard. But there's, that was,
We still have buddies that are, go ahead.
I'm saying that was 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people who are still dealing with that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we still have buddies that are struggling with their transition. And I count myself lucky because had I gotten out of and gone back home or moved somewhere and not really had a support system outside of you guys, which our support system is amazing,
Yeah.
and it's awesome that we all stay in touch, but we're all pretty far away from each other. So the day-to-day stuff, we're not interacting. But had I not had the support system that I had, which is basically my wife, Cindy, I'd probably I'd have been a mess and potentially been in a lot of trouble. But even then with her, I mean, she was amazing. She was super patient. I struggled. And a lot of that was finding what my next mission was, I guess, if you want to use that word, or what's going to drive me. I flip-flopped from job to job and major to major and could never figure that out. And, I let her down, but, she stuck with me, and that was my support system that got me through that time. And there's a lot of guys that don't have that.
Yeah, well, a lot of guys, that support system is the exact opposite. It's like they don't understand, therefore they don't communicate. You know what I mean? And they end up divorced. And they, my wife's a bitch and my husband's an asshole. He's a fucking crazy PTSD guy. They don't figure this shit out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm the type where it's like, I just want to figure out everything myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm very like independent in that sense. But and when you see someone struggling with that, it's frustrating for them to see that. You know,
Hmm.
it's like either get rid of the problem or fix it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's like your outlet that you found was fighting and training, and my outlet that I found was the outdoors. Like I, um, you said you want to be able to figure it out yourself. Like leave me alone, let me figure it out. I'm kind of similar. I need my alone time. Like I'm not a morning person. I'm an asshole in the mornings. My wife would probably attest. Like, but if it does, I don't want to talk, and I'm a dick about it. And at least once a week, I have to have my alone time. And normally it's get up in the hill outside, away from it, like society, and just be in nature, whether it's hunting or hiking or something, like just separating myself from society, and not in like a weird fucking like weird shit, but like I just, for whatever reason, it's the just being quiet, and at the same time, especially the places I've chosen to live, like the Black Hills, you're not the apex predator. So
Yeah.
if I go out in the hills and backpack or hunt, like I'm not constantly on edge about predators or whatnot, but there's mountain lions and shit out here. And that's something that's always in your mind. Like, hey, I'm not out here just bird watching.
Yeah.
Like something could fuck me up at any minute.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of fun. You know, I call it free running. I like to, it sounds ridiculous, right? I smoke like a really strong sativa, right? Something that's going to get my mind just flying a million miles an hour. And I'll just throw my keys, my phone, everything in the car, just start running. You know what I mean? I'll hit a hill, I'll just run around the trails. I'll try to get myself lost. And I like in my head, I put like something trying to chase me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't stop until I get back to my fucking car. However long it takes, or just for some reason
Hmm.
beating the shit out of myself physically. It's like the most relieving thing. You know, I'm like, oh fuck, I'm good now. Okay, I'm good for a few days. you know?
Yep. That's funny you say that, because I can't smoke anymore, but it's something that I have done in the past. And if our laws were ever at the times, but in the past I've done or something similar. At least you smoke one of those strains that that a lot of people would be like, oh, it makes me super paranoid.
Yeah.
Like, fuck yeah, it makes me. And then I go hike around in the woods and I just start thinking about weird shit. Like, what if some dude pops out from this tree and tries to kill me?
Yeah.
You just start playing out those scenarios in your head. For whatever reason, it's like therapy.
Yeah.
For most people, they'd probably lose their shit.
Yeah, it's like uncomfortable, but you want it to be uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember you doing that shit in the, not smoking and doing it, but doing that in the military. You and I would just be sitting outside the barracks and drinking, and you'd just be like, dude, what would you do right now if a whole freaking platoon of Afghans or terrorists or whatever came up over First Sergeant's Hill, loaded to the teeth, and just started moving in on us and shooting? Like, Skacko, where the fuck is your head right now? Oh,
Gotta use your
I kind of
imagination.
know where it is. Absolutely. It's shit. I mean, that's part of our training while we were in, Kim's games and TDGs and shit like that they'd have us do.
Yeah, looking at the landscape, creating your own scenarios is fun. Still, I like to ride my bike now, get on top of a hill and just look around. You know what I mean? Just think about like there was a dinosaur here. Just about on that.
That's so we talked about Xbox a little earlier. Have you played that Call of Duty?
You broke up. Would you say Call of Duty what?
Have you played Call of Duty Warzone?
Oh yeah, sure.
So I'll play that with some friends, and we get like stuck in a building or in a town or something, and these dudes know exactly where they're going because they play forever. I haven't played much, so I'm like, I have no idea where I'm at. I'm looking in the wrong directions and shit. But then it's like as soon as we pop up into the hills or something, I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah. That's interesting how that works.
The terrain to my advantage. And these guys are all like, oh, I get shot at and I don't got anywhere to go. And I'm like, fucking use that tree, use that rock, micro terrain, motherfucker.
Yeah. First of all, you're on the ridge line. Get on the fucking backside of it, dumbass. Take a sniper fire. No shit, you're on top of the hill, bro. On the other side.
Now, just as a preface to that, or so people don't think that I'm talking myself up, I suck at that game, which is a little disheartening because every once in a while it's like I'll play with some buddies and I just absolutely suck. And it's like, fuck, I did this shit in real life. How do I suck so bad at this? But,
I mean, this whole thing, it's either you gotta fine tune it, man. You gotta fine tune stretch your hands out a little bit, warm them up, Be ready for it.
to the fire, the guy that ends up making like an AR platform Xbox controller. There you go. There's your $1 million idea. Because if everybody was playing with those, it'd probably be a little better.
You have to put like a joystick on the pistol grip, kind of, so you can move around with your thumb, so you can look around. And then you need something to be able to move forward too. And just trigger pull, just playing the TV.
You're just getting too complex. I'm just trying to throw some excuses out there to why I suck and why I would be better.
Well, shit, dude, we've done an hour and a half now. You have anything else you want to get into?
Here we come, Joe Rogan.
Yeah, it's been an hour and a half. The thing is that there's so much more to get into, but I think we should like save it for another show or something. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I mean, shit. You and I could freaking we were so close the entire time during the military. I feel like we could go down a rabbit hole that almost never ends.
Yeah.
It'd probably be a little deeper and darker and dirtier than this episode.
Yeah, what I like to do, this like the version of Zoom I'm using right now, it's free. So I'm gonna upgrade it so I can have multiple people, and then get just get a few people on. We're all just looking at each other.
That'd be fun.
Yeah,
that'd be a ton of fun. A very long episode because of the little tangents and rabbit holes you go down.
Well, yeah, and like that group chat. Those
right?
People in the group chat arguing all the time. Imagine them looking at each other.
Yeah. Your one text message started off a whole freaking different conversation.
All I said was, "Hey, anybody want to record tomorrow? Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you."
That's why I said, "See, Skacko, look what you started. Thanks."
That's funny, man.
No, it's all good shit. Yeah, man, this was fun.
Yeah, it's cool catching up. We haven't like talked in like 5 years. We actually talked.
Yeah, I mean, outside of like texting and shit like that mainly.
Yeah. Usually it's like, hey, what's up, bro? You doing good? Yeah, I'm all right. I'm living here. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And it, like, because you know you're texting, you could just, there's so much to go into. It's like, you're not going to, I don't like writing forums on my phone. You know what I mean? Nobody does.
Yeah, exactly. No one wants to read a novel in text messaging, and at the same time everybody's busy and you don't always have time to sit down and talk on the phone or talk over Skype or Zoom for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But it's been good, been fun.
Yeah, man. I'm going to, you want me to tag you in this and all that stuff or what?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. It's going to take a little bit to upload to YouTube. It's a pretty big one. Once it uploads, I'll put it up there and tag you. And yeah, this is
Yeah.
episode number 2. So.
Second in line. I might be the second episode, but I'm still better than Ryan Martinez.
Oh, do you know what's funny? He was like, make sure everybody knows that I was first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the little man complex that he's got. Just a tiny little guy.
He's gonna watch this and be like, "Fuck you." All right, brother. We'll do this again soon.
Yeah, for sure. You said you're heading to the First Sergeant's Hill?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get my ass up there. 36. So.
You just pulled the curtain back. Like, can you look out the window and see the hill?
No, I was looking at the daylight.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you make it out there. If you do, have a beer for me while you're there. I wish I could be there.
I'm not drinking till June 15th, man. It's a 6-week.
Have something for me, Skacko.
I should have a drink.
Yeah, fuck your sobriety.
I just wanted to do 6 weeks. So I was drinking too much. I was like, I'm drinking too much. 6 weeks over. So.
Yeah, well, cheat day on Memorial Day.
That's true. All right, man. Well, brother.
Yeah, good talking to you, man. Appreciate it.
Later.
Later.